I'd like to introduce you to today's guest speaker, Marisol Rodriguez, who is the founder and executive director of Renew Life Center. So let's all welcome Marisol.
Thank you. Do you guys ask me questions? How do you want this to go?
So we start off with you telling us your story, whatever you want to share with us. And out of that, there'll be some, it'll generate some organic questions and conversations. So, yeah.
All right. Well, as Eneri mentioned, my name is Marisol Rodriguez. And I'm a co-founder of Renew Life Center in Patterson. And I really want to start by saying that everything that I'll say going forward is really something that I have to give 100% of the credit and honor and glory is to God. Because when you talk about, women being stuck or not thinking you're able, and I know for me, particularly growing up in the kind of family I grew up with, like dreaming was not really allowed, like it was squashed. It's like, well, what makes you think you could do that? And it was always, your wings were always clipped because, growing up in generational poverty like I did, it was your family was always worried about now, like right now, and providing for right now, that when you start thinking about future, it's almost like, ¿quién se cree? Right? Yeah. And so growing up with like that, I've never really allowed myself to dream or hope or anything like that. So to say that I had this wonderful idea of founding a nonprofit and went ahead and did it would be a lie. Okay. So this is let me tell you how it went down. Let me tell you how it went down, because it's as surprising to me as it is to anybody else. So, so here I am volunteering, right? And you know what? I love the way the Lord does things, because he never throws you at the deep end of the pool. Like he lets you wade in first to your toes and then your ankles and then your knees, and you keep wading into the pool and you get deeper and deeper. And he allows us to do that, and as you get into the water, first you're shocked by the cold, then you start feeling comfortable, then you go in a little deeper, right? So that's really like my story is like. So I started volunteering at a pregnancy resource center. And if someone here does not know what that is, a pregnancy resource center is a Christian ministry that helps women when they're facing an unplanned pregnancy. Right. And so I started volunteering there, which was my first step into the water, right? In serving in ministry and doing anything outside of my comfort zone. Because even for volunteering, I felt I was not equipped to do. I felt like this is not really for me. I don't have what it takes, but I did it because I really felt a strong sense of God telling me to do it. And this is the thing, is that we have to be more afraid of disobeying God than our discomfort of doing something that's outside of something we feel comfortable with. Because here's the thing, the truth is that if we don't feel confident that we can do something like really well or perfect or excellent, we don't want to even try it, right? We only want to try things that we know we could do well, we know we could succeed. But when you get put in a position to do something that's completely outside of you, then we're like, yeah, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. And it's really based on fear, right? It's based on fear, and it's based on not trusting God to show up and be who he says he is. So that said, I began volunteering. I was volunteering for like 10 years in this place. And let me tell you, I went from a skeptic that I don't know if I could do this or should do this, to absolutely on fire, passionate for this mission that God put me in. So that's the other nugget I would like to encourage women in, is that when God is calling you to do something, it's not always going to be something that right away you think you're going to like. It may be the most out in left field thing that you never thought of doing. And you're like, I don't even want to do that. Like, who wants to do that? And that's how I felt the pregnancy center. I'm like, ew, who wants to do that? But he just kept sending me these messages to do it. So I did it. And like I said, it turned into a passion of 10 years. And then after those 10 years, the woman that was running the center retired, and they offered me the opportunity to be the director. So there's my next step in getting deeper into the pool. Now I'm running a center as opposed to just volunteering. And what happened in the years that I did run the center was that God started opening my eyes to the bigger picture of what the mission was. And the mission of the pregnancy center was to walk alongside women that are facing an unplanned pregnancy and are uncertain about what to do with their pregnancy. Now, that said, I usually tell when I'm speaking to a group of people, and I know that you're speaking to all kinds of people with different positions and different opinions and different this and different that, and that's all okay. But what I love about the pregnancy center is that it's not coercing anyone to do anything. It's just offering a space where a woman can sit in peace and quiet with encouragement and make a decision that's not based on fear or pressure or anything else. So it's based on giving a woman a space so that she can make her choice, right? We keep talking about choices. We want her to be able to make her choice free from fear and free from coercion from outsiders, right? And that's the space that the pregnancy center provides, which is awesome. But here's the thing. What I started noticing was like, okay, this is great. Well, what happens to these same women that are already in poverty, right? Maybe Newark, Patterson, Camden, Elizabeth, where I grew up, Irvington, all these cities, and now not only are they in poverty because they're born into it, but now they have this unexpected pregnancy that they didn't plan for. They have no way to afford this baby. And what? And what happens to them, And what I started seeing as a director, I didn't see it as a volunteer, because when you're a volunteer, you only see a little small part of the ministry. You see a small part. When you're there every day, 10 hours a day, you kind of get to see the big picture. And I just started seeing these women that were struggling. I mean, so they have this baby and they're homeless and they don't have diapers and they don't have their physical need met. But more important than that, because all those needs are for the baby. More important than that, she was shriveling away. Her spirit, her soul, her dreams of the future, her passion, all this thing is dying inside of her because she doesn't see a way to do it. She probably didn't see a way to do it before, but now with this addition of a baby, it's even further away from her. It's further away from her grasp, right? So I started wondering, like, what's happening to these ladies? And then as God would have it, I opened my email one morning as a director, and there was an email in the inbox from a woman that had visited our center 5 months ago. And the email pretty much said, and I'll keep it short so you guys have time to ask me questions. The email pretty much said, hey, I came to your center, 5 months ago, and I was walking a really thin line with this pregnancy. And ultimately I decided to, her words were, I decided to, obey God. And I decided to have to continue with the pregnancy. And then she went on to say, but, I can't afford this baby. I'm not ready for it. My family won't help me. My money is not enough. The baby's coming in a few months and I have nothing in preparation for the baby. No one to, and mind you, this woman, she had a degree and she was a teacher and she had a full-time job. And this is what we fail to understand, is that just because a woman has a full-time job does not mean that is enough to support a whole other person. And we know if those of us who are mothers, we know how expensive babies are, right? And so even with all those things she had going for her, she was still in deep financial trouble, and she was losing grasp of what to do. And she went on to say that she didn't know what to do, that she didn't want to be a loser. She said, is there any way you can help me? At least for some things with the baby, I don't want to be a failure. That's exactly what she said. I don't want to be a failure. And that just broke my heart. And I was like, what the heck are we doing? Okay. It's like we're doing half a job. Okay. We're doing wonderful at encouraging and leading women to make life-affirming choices. But then it's like, boom, you drop the ball. Right. And that's when God started putting on my heart, not that the pregnancy center ministry needs to do more, but that Christians need to do more. The body of Christ needs to do more. The church needs to do more. And it's funny because just the same way I'm talking about this with you here now, I was just started because it was bubbling inside of me. And you know, us Latinas, right? When something is bubbling up here, we're like, everywhere we went, right? So that's how I became. It's like everyone I said, I'm like, well, do you know what I just realized? This woman, and I'm just like this little bumblebee buzzing around, just talking about all this that was on my heart and everything I was thinking. And this is really honestly how it went down. One day my phone rings and I answer the phone and it's my pastor, right? And you know, when the pastor calls you, it's like being called to the principal's office, right? I'm like, like, oh, the pastor, like, okay. So he calls me, he goes, you know, Marisol, I heard, through folks in the church that you're talking about this ministry or idea that you have or whatever, something's going on. He goes, I want you to come in. I want you to tell me about it. So I did. I went in and I did I did the thing. And next thing I know, I'm starting a ministry, and he said to me, he goes, Marisol, it sounds to me like God wants you to do something. And I remember saying to him, Pastor, you have got to be kidding me. I said, I just turned 50. Who starts anything at 50? Right. And this is another encouragement for you ladies to think that, I should have done this 10, 20 years ago, whatever. I said, Pat, I just turned 50. Who starts anything at 50? And he goes, well, Moses got his calling at 80. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. You can't argue with the pastor, right?
Oh, good.
Right? So I never set out to say, I have this idea. I want to be a founder of this. I just started talking and sharing about what God put in my heart. And that just led to someone knowing, who told somebody, who told the pastor. The pastor calls me, I go in, the pastor says to me, can you put this like in a presentation, and can you come and share it with the elders of the church? Right. So I do that. I make this thing, I go and I tell the elders in the church what I'm thinking about. And then, sometime later after that, I get a call from the pastor. Well, the elders voted that we want to give you seed money to start this. So, Eneri and ladies out there, is what I want to tell you is that when it's God's will, it's God's bill.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I say that all the time. I'm sure Elaine's heard me say that a million times, because when he tells me you should start something, and I'm like, that is so easy to say to people, but where's the funding coming from?
Yeah.
Where's the funding coming from? Where are the other resources coming from? And it was God just bringing everything.
Yeah.
That was required to do this. And now I don't think I'm special. I really don't think I'm special. I think this is how God operates with all of us. I think what happens sometimes is that we miss the train. God is telling us to do something and it's not quite exactly what we have in mind. So we're like, oh no, that can't be it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be, I want to be a motivational speaker, and that's awesome. Well, maybe that's not what God wants you to be. Maybe he's opening the door for you to do this. Yeah. And we're not really open to that because we're focused on this. Yeah. And I think that we really have to seek the Lord, because I'm telling you this, ladies, that when you are walking in the will of God, it's not a struggle.
So good.
It's not a struggle. He opens the door, he levels the ground, he paves the way, he brings you what you need. It's often when we're working outside his will that it is a grind and a struggle. Now, here's the thing. We could be doing wonderful things for the kingdom. It's just that God didn't ask you to do it. He wants you to do something else. And I will say this, that it'll probably be something that's outside of your comfort zone, so that you will know every minute of the day that it is he who equips you. That you're not doing this because you're gifted and talented and that's your wheelhouse and you have all the degrees and all the letters after your name and all of this. No, it's not because of that. It's because he equips you and he guides you. So the church voted to give me seed money of, a nice amount of money. They earmarked $75,000 towards this project.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the story and I can't believe it myself, So, and that's how it all started. So what Renew is doing today is filling in that gap that I saw a little over 10 years ago. Okay. It's as Christ followers, if we're all Christ followers on this call, I don't know, but we know that God is a God of life, right? He's a life-giving God. And I think it's always a God-honoring choice when we choose life. But at the same time, we got to think about what happens after that, right? We're excited and we celebrate when a woman makes a life-honoring choice. But now we have to also see, does she have the resources and the capacity to carry that choice fully? And not just carry it like a burden, but carry it joyfully and be able to raise godly children. Because think about this. Everyone complains about the cradle to prison pipeline, right? Gang violence, drug use, violence in schools, all these things, all these social ills that we complain about as a society, if you really look at it, you know what it stems from? Broken homes, fatherless homes, right? Children raised to single moms who have to work 2-3 jobs, right? To support a kid. And the kids are left alone to their own devices. So if we take and we put care and attention, time and money into those single mom homes, then we are intercepting all that follows, right? We're intercepting that child that is raised without a father figure, without, discipline, with a mom that's working multiple jobs because she has to make ends meet. So it's not just a way of honoring the woman who makes difficult choices and oftentimes sacrifices her own dreams for the future for a child, but it's also honoring that baby that is coming into the world. And he's coming into what? What is he coming into? What environment, what type of home, what community? And I think that as Christians, we're supposed to care about that. I mean, God is so clear about it in scripture. I mean, you can't escape it. God talking about, the orphan and the widow and the poor and the immigrant. It is on over and over and over, right? And it's something that we have to take a look at and we have to be active in. And for me personally, my wheelhouse is not poverty in general. It's just that woman that makes that choice for life. I want to come alongside her. And I want to support her in that choice for life. And not only for her benefit, so she could still say, wow, I chose life and I didn't have to sacrifice my future, but also for the benefit of that baby that is coming, that we want them to have a good, thriving future and grow up to be a good, law-abiding person and hopefully a follower of Jesus Christ as well. So, I mean, kind of in a nutshell, that's it. I'll just take a break here to see if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, so good. So much to process, but I love your story. I love how you trusted God to provide. And even before that, just stepping into what you said, it may not have been what you thought, I'm going to volunteer, and you still didn't even feel like you were. And I think a lot of times women struggle with that, I don't have it in me, that lack of confidence, that lack of, and for many reasons, what has been spoken into us, but those lies that we believe, but stepping in faith and being like, okay, I believe God has called me to do this, so I'm going to step in faith and do, and then just trust him to guide and provide the provisions, whatever that may be. So, and in your case, it was just confirmation.
Yes.
When after confirmation, when your pastor came to you, when the funds were made available, and it made me think, even for myself, to think outside of the box. Mm-hmm. Because we think certain things have to go, well, it's supposed to go this way. I'm supposed to have all this money before I start doing anything. Well, no, not really. It's just taking that first step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And in each step, trusting God to provide and getting out of our own way, what I would say, because our thinking often limits us, because we start putting like, but this, but that, but this, but that. Like, so you're already cutting yourself from even moving forward with the stinking thinking. And it's like, no. If God's going to bring you to it, he'll bring you through it. But he also asks us to take action.
Yes.
And in action comes that faith in action. So, yeah.
So, that's where you learn what God really is, who God really is. Because here's the thing, we all want to see God work in our lives in miraculous ways. Like, I love reading the Bible, all these miracles. I'm like, wow, I want some of that.
Yeah, me too.
Right? But guess what? We don't give him the space to do it because we want every I dotted and every T crossed before we step to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, we want all the provision in advance. Well, guess what? That's not how you see God work. Okay. Yeah. You see God work, when it's darkest, when it's bleak, when you have nothing, that's when God can provide. But we just intercept him along the way because we want to make sure. So we're not giving him the space to show up in big ways in our lives. And I'll tell you so much that when people would ask me, okay, so you want to help these women that chose life out of poverty, how are you going to do that? Do you know what my answer was? I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
I don't know. I really didn't know. I had nothing figured out. I had no money, never founded anything, never ran a business. I didn't know how I was going to do it. All I did was talk about what God put in my heart, what he was showing me. So people say, okay, that's interesting. How are you going to do it? I don't know. So I had nothing figured out. It's a really, like I always tell people, imagine finding a turtle in a tree, right? If you see a turtle in a tree, you wouldn't say the turtle's a good climber because we know they don't climb. You would say, who the heck put that turtle up there? Right? And that's how I feel. It's like, how the heck is Marisol, a founder of a nonprofit, writing a book? I'm like, this is like mind blown.
Wow.
Because I myself do not have the skill set to do any of those things. I don't have the skill set, but along the way, God just keeps providing and equipping and bringing to me people who do have the skill set.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes God uses us he gives one person the vision of something, but it's not necessarily you are supposed to do the whole thing. Yeah. Right. He wants us to be the body of Christ and pull people in that have all the skill sets that I lack, right? That are going to come with those skill sets to support the mission. Good. Because it's not a one-man show, right? It's like one has the vision, others have the skill set, others have the resources. And when you put the vision, the skill set and the resources together, now you have, synergy.
Yeah, I'm furiously typing that one down. It's like so good. Yeah, for sure. Oh man. Yeah. I'm encouraged just by this conversation and what you're sharing, and I could see the synergies and different things that God has done in my life. And I hope that everyone on this call, gets also a nugget. Any questions for Marisol? Feel free to come off mute or type it in the chat. Let me just make sure I look at the chat. Yeah, let us know. Because I could come up with a lot of questions for her, but I want it to be also what's in your mind, ladies. And while somebody gets off, I think everybody's like and make sure you get off mute or type it. But in the meantime, what was one, I think I always ask this question because I'm all about, okay, what challenges did you have to overcome? Mainly for yourself, like your own thinking, let's just say that, if you could come up with something like that. And then as you were just putting it out there and doing what you needed to do.
Well, you said one of my favorite phrases, which was thinking. One of my personal biggest challenges was fear. Was who am I to do this? I don't have a college. I have a high school diploma and that's it. I know people with MSWs, XYZs next to their name, that do this kind of stuff. Like I felt fear because I'm like, I'm not qualified to do this. I'm not. Yeah. So fear was my biggest personal challenge. And then the other challenge was that, like I told you, I would share the vision and that vision drew people to me. And it drew people to the vision, that people who were on fire. Oh, Marisol, great. I'm in with you. I'm in with you. I'm in with you. They're in with you. They're in with you. They're in with you until they're not. And now all of a sudden we found a nonprofit. It's open in Patterson, and all those people that were cheering me on to do it, boop, 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 started disappearing on me.
Wow. Okay.
And that was both terrifying and very hurtful. Because the only reason I kept moving forward was because I'm not alone. Right? I'm like, okay, I got you, right? I got you, right? Okay, we're going to do this together. I got you. So, I have this because I'm surrounded by people, and those people just started dropping off like flies. And then honestly, there's something I had to repent of and ask God to forgive me. I started feeling resentful. I started resenting them because I felt, oh my God, you just left me alone with this huge thing. I got to answer to people now. I got a whole congregation that invested all this money. I can't let them down. And I'm partnering with Lighthouse, this big organization, can't let them down.
Right.
And I felt under a lot of pressure. But you know what? Looking back, here's my other lesson I learned, and I hope it serves you guys all, is that God brings people around you to support you in a vision. And they're like scaffolding on a building, right? When you go to New York City, you see a lot of scaffolding, all that going up the building. And that is required to be there as the building is being built or improved or renovated, right? So you have all this scaffolding. Once the project is done, what happens to the scaffolding? It gets taken down. It's not intended to be there forever. So what God taught me is that some people in our lives, they're scaffolding. They're there for a season. God's bringing them to help you get this vision off the ground and going, because he knows, just like Moses said, I'm not going, Lord. He said, all right, take your brother Aaron with you. Okay. So because I'm one of those, I'm like, I'm not qualified. He goes, okay. I'm going to send a bunch of people that's going to surround you, and you're going to feel really good and supported by doing it. But eventually I got to move those people out of the way because they're just there to get you started. They're not meant to be there permanently. And the thing is that we can't be angry. I'm telling you, I was resentful. Oh my gosh, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. I was thinking, oh, what kind of friends are you? All this negative stuff. And I really had to forgive them because there was nothing to forgive. God never intended them to be there forever. So I had to, but in my mind, I had to forgive them, move on, understand what their role was, and then trust Lord for the rest, So
good. Yeah.
So understand that the people that start with you, whatever you want to start, may not be those that finish with you. And people will go along the way. And let me tell you, in the beginning, as people started dropping off, you had to see me. I was such a nervous, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was such a nervous wreck. And guess what? The more people I lost, actually, the more confident I got. Because I saw that once I lost the first person, well, I didn't die. The project didn't die. Okay, I survived losing one person. Okay, then the second person. Then I'm like, I'm still here. I'm surviving. And the more people, and now when someone says to me, Marisol, I have to, step away from Renew, I'm like, okay, God bless you. Thank you for the time you gave to me. Yeah. And I bless and I release you, but before it was like, it was terrifying. And now I understand God brings people for a season. When those move in, move out, something else is moving in. So
so good. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Like my bells are ringing all over. I'm like, yep, I gotta forgive. I have to let go of that. But Ori, do you have a question? And then we go to Mila.
Oh no, I didn't have a question. I was just clapping for what she said. I thought it was a really good analogy. The scaffolding of the building. It's really good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. I've never heard it in quite that way, but it just paints such a great picture.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ori. Mila, go ahead.
Oh, hi. So maybe I missed this in the beginning. So basically, your organization helps women who are choosing to keep pregnancy. So your organization is there to help them with anything that they need, like monetary stuff and all?
Well, we do with some monetary help, but in reality, our goal is to help these women be on their feet, be self-sufficient. We want them to have emotionally healthy homes, right? We want the babies to be raised in an emotionally healthy environment, but also an economically stable environment, because those two things together is what create a foundation for children to flourish in a healthy environment. So what we actually give women is we give them the tools for them to be able to be self-sufficient. So we are not a relief organization, meaning we're not a food pantry or a soup kitchen, and we're not here to help you pay the rent per se. Although women who are in our program and participating, if they need assistance, we'll provide them with assistance, right? But our goal is not to do things for you. Our goal is to develop you into doing things for yourself, right? Because that's where the dignity comes from, right? We want everyone to experience human dignity. And that dignity comes from knowing that I don't have to go to, what is it? Is it 80 Hamilton or whatever? And, you know, and do all these social services programs, which are fine when you need them. But our intention is not for you to be on that for a lifetime. So what we do is we provide educational programs that addresses the root causes of poverty. So mostly people think that if you're poor, then just get a job. Hello, get a job, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and get out of poverty, right? But it's not that simple. It's not that simple, because there are women that come to Renew, like I spoke earlier about, who have degrees, multiple degrees, and they're still in poverty, because a degree alone and a job alone doesn't help you overcome generations worth of entrenched ideas and ways of living that just produce more poverty. So it's really what we do is education and mentoring. So we teach you things, and then we walk alongside you as you practice learning and applying those things that you learn.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Do you like teach them about the Lord or anything like that? Like any religious?
Yeah, so Renew Life Center is not founded as a Christian ministry. It's founded as an education and mentoring nonprofit. Now, what we do is we do offer, so we have non-faith-based programs and faith-based programs. So, and you would be amazed at the people who take our faith-based program. Like, we tell them in advance. So there's no like switch and bait or trick people into things. We're like, hey, this program is Bible-based. It's called Jobs for Life. So it's a jobs program where they teach you how to write a resume. You do practice interviews. You do a whole lot of stuff to develop a professional image. But it's based on the Bible. And it's based on the story of Joseph. We all know the story of Joseph, on how he was a slave. And wherever he was enslaved, whether it was prison, Potiphar's house, wherever he went, he kept rising in ranks, right? He started as a slave. He would end up being second to the master. So what was it about Joseph that wherever he landed, way at the bottom, he always rose to the top? So those are the concepts that we teach in order to rise to the top professionally. We use Joseph as a model of that. And yes, and it does, what I love about Jobs for Life is that it does bring scripture into it, and the people love it, and it sparks a desire for them to want to know more. So a lot of people say, oh, you know what? All of a sudden now I'm interested in God. You know, I'm interested, you know, the story of Joseph sparked my interest. And then we could take that spark and now, you know, work with that to point them towards a church, or the people who are mentoring them can also go more into sharing the gospel one-on-one. Because that's the thing we do, is that all my mentors are Christians, because we want to take that mentoring relationship and have a spiritual component where we share our faith with the women.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So awesome. Anyone else have a question? And let me just look at the screen.
Well, I don't really qualify to ask a question, but I am going to ask a question.
Thank you.
I know you, Marisol, so it's like one of those things like, how my coworkers are looking at me like, oh, sorry, ladies, I'm on a Zoom call. So my question is, share maybe the pros and cons of like when you see a client or a client come in, the pros and cons of like, how do you, in the sense of like, you can only help someone who wants to be helped, but then at the moment, maybe that person's just looking for like that quick, like, I just need help right now, and not looking on long terms, but kind of helping them see the long term help. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And that's actually something that's very hard because, like I said to Mila, I think her name was, we're not a relief organization. Relief organizations do that. They provide relief. Yeah. So you're in a situation, they relieve it, right? And that's what sometimes people just want relief. They don't want to transform their lives. They don't want to be self-sufficient. They just want relief. And you have those folks. And that's what's hard because we are a development organization. So we want to serve people who want to develop themselves, and develop a better life for themselves, of course, ultimately for the sake of their children, right? And so do we provide relief? Sure. On occasion, if someone comes, we're Christ followers and we're called to provide aid whenever possible. So if someone comes even to Lighthouse or Renew off the street and they say, oh, you know what, like this happened actually just a few days ago. This man comes and says, I need formula for my baby. I tell them about our programming because what I would love to do, that good old saying, you could give a person a fish or you could teach them how to fish. Mm-hmm. I could just give them formula. Sure, I can. I'd rather help you so that you can always buy your own formula. That's what I'd rather do. So I'll always tell them about how we can help them be able to provide their own formula. But some people are like, yeah, no, I don't got time for that. I just need formula now. And then I was okay, I'll give you the formula now. But this is a one-time help. You can't come back here every week asking me for formula or diapers or this or that, right? I'll give you one-time relief, but that's not my role. My role is not to provide continuous relief. If that's what you would like, go to Kumac, go to Oasis, or I will refer them somewhere where they can get continuous relief. But that's not our goal. So when people apply for our programming, and Eleni knows this, they have to fill out an application and they get interviewed because developing people is far more expensive than giving people relief. And it's more time consuming. Relief is transactional. Here's the formula. Okay, goodbye. It's a transaction. And development is a long-term, ongoing relationship that takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of money to develop people. So we're very careful with who we invest in developing because we want to be sure that you understand what it is what you're signing up for, right? Mm-hmm. You're not signing up for relief. You're signing up for long-term development. So it's a process, and it breaks our heart sometimes. I've seen young women come and they just want relief. And I start talking to them and I'm trying to convince them, no, what you really want is to develop. You're so young and tender. And I don't want you to go through the next 10 years messing up your life. Because let me tell you, they're going to end up back eventually. Okay. But especially the young women, they tend to think that, listen, I don't know how old you guys are on this call, but we were all very young. We were all 20 at one time and we knew it all, didn't we? We had the answers to everything. And what happened to you isn't going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. And that's really where they're at. So we try very hard to convince them to develop, but they're like, no, I got this. I'm good. It's just that I hit a little bump right now and I just need this relief right now, but I got everything under control. And what do you do? I have to say, okay, well, you know where we are if you ever feel you need us. And hopefully they come back. So we can't, the good old saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them
drink.
Right. And Eleni, actually, back to Eleni referred a friend to us years ago. She referred a friend to us for the class. Remember Michelle Eleni? And she was like, I'm good. No, I'm good.
Yes,
and
I remember.
Years later, she came back and she goes, oh, are you still doing that class? I think it was like 3 years later. And now she's ready. So we just have to wait,
And then, my next question, what was your aha moment knowing that you had to write your book? After you
Lord, that's another thing. That's another story. Dear Jesus. I told you guys, I have a high school diploma. That's it, man. I'm not a writer. I'm a child of God, and that is absolutely it. That's all I know I am. So when I was opening the center, this lady came to see the space. She just wanted a tour of the space. So I gave her the tour. And as she was leaving, she asked me, can she pray for me? Sure. Who turns down prayer, right? So she's standing in front of me. She takes her hand and she puts it on my abdomen, like right under my belly button. She puts her hand there and she starts praying. And she says to me, there's a book in you.
Wow.
The Lord is telling me there's a book in you and you have to write it. And I telling you, when I say to you, I cracked up because I was like, yeah, no, like I have trouble writing an email. Yes, there's no book here. I promise you, there's no book here. But anyway, the aha moment of writing the book was when, just like everything, and this was the opposite of starting the ministry. I was talking about it all the time. The book thing, I never mentioned it. It was so horrifying to me. I locked that away and never brought it up. But the interesting thing was that every time I talked to someone like you, like I did interviews and stuff, the moderator or the interviewer at the end would say to me, you know what, Marisol, you should write about that.
Mm.
And that happened a bunch of times to me until the last time it happened was I was doing an interview on the Gate Radio, the online Christian radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Gate. And the guy that was interviewing me, after we finished the interview, he leaned over to me and he said, you have to write that book. And at that moment, I just felt that was the aha moment. It was like at that moment, I felt God gave me peace, because writing a book had me like this, eating my fingernails and all that. At that moment, when he said it, it was like I just felt this go, you know what? I have to do it. It's just like everything else I've done. God is putting me in something extremely uncomfortable and way outside of my comfort zone. And because I already experienced him do it once, I said, I got to trust him that he's going to do it again. And let me tell you, ladies, when I want to encourage you that God has so much for us that we can ever imagine. And we are our worst own enemy when we don't do the crazy things that God puts in our hearts and minds. And let me tell you, if something comes to your mind and you're like, whoa, that's crazy, that's probably it. That's probably it. Because let me tell you, and Eleni knows this because, he tells me to write the book. I call my friend who have written a bunch of books. She's written books before. And she automatically, what did she do? Just like the last thing God asked me to do. She brought me all the resources I needed to write a book. She signed me up for a book writer's workshop that was valued. And Eleni took it with me. I think the value was like $5,000. I got it for free. Okay. Wow. Eleni got it for free. Eleni, where's your book?
So in the process, I actually found my manuscript. About 2 weeks ago. I was looking for something in my desk, and I had it in an envelope, and I was like, what is this envelope? And I took it out and I was like, oh, here it is. So I have some of my manuscript, and I put it to the side, and I put a post-it to saying, go back to this. You must go back to this.
Yes. So, just like everything else, and you know what, our time is winding down, but I want to say this really quick at how amazing God is, because I wrote the book with lots of help and lots of support of many people. My friend in California, this book writing organization, it was self-published on Amazon. And, of course, I went on Facebook and I posted that I wrote a book, so my friends and family would buy it. And the secret part of me was hoping nobody would buy it. But anyway, long story short, an old friend of mine that I haven't seen in 30 years that we grew up together saw the post of the book, and he ordered it on Amazon, and he bought the book and he read it and he liked it. And he decided he was going to share it with his daughter. So he mails a copy of the book to his daughter. His daughter lives in Michigan, right? Ladies, I can't even believe this telling the story. His daughter works for a Christian book publisher. And she just happened to like my book. And she reached out to me. She goes, would you be open to having your book professionally published? I almost passed out.
Wow.
I almost passed out, because this is, again, God doing things.
Yeah.
And my book is being released in August of this month by Baker Books, the Christian book publisher. And
but God, that's so awesome.
That's the turtle in the tree thing. Like, how am I to know that this old friend of mine is going to get the book and share it with his daughter, and she works for you just have to see the way only God.
God. So good.
And this is why, we have to take those scary steps of faith and see where God leads us. He's going to lead us to places that are unimaginable and scary, but I think he's got an equal story for all of us.
Yeah. So good. So good. Thank you so much, Marisol, for sharing. I mean, I hope, ladies, that you are so encouraged by her story and just all the good that this organization is doing. Just, we have a minute left, and I just want to remind you, like she said, take those scary steps, which means do it afraid. Trust God in the process. He'll bring you the resources, but we have to step out in faith and test it. God says, test me. I'm a proponent of write the vision and make it plain. So start writing those ideas down. Start praying about them. It doesn't matter your age. And yeah, go ahead.
No, it doesn't matter your age. Write it down, but you know what? Talk about it.
Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Not with everyone who will listen. Talk about what God put in your heart, because you don't know what ear that's going to fall on. And the ear it falls on is going to be the right ear that has a piece of that puzzle God's trying to put together. So go out there, ladies, and do what we do best. Talk. Because it's in that talking that God's going to connect things for you.
Yeah, so good. So good. I'm so encouraged. I'm blessed by having you on this call. And I hope, ladies, that you feel just as blessed and that this will propel you to where you're meant to be and what you're meant to do. So thanks again. We're at the top of the hour. Thanks again, Marisol, for your time, for your words of wisdom. I look forward to connecting with you more as the months go by, and we'll talk soon. But thank you, ladies, and have a very, very blessed day. Bye.
Thank you.